knives again, and you know, just kind of give you guys a different take on what a good folder is. For many of you, the knife that does that, which is not what this video is about, but is this, probably the ZT 0562, which is an iconic knife. Now this one is more customized, and the blade on this one is LMAX as opposed to the original, which was M390, and then it went on to become I believe it was a 204P steel, and then they graduated to CV20, which really doesn't make a difference because they're all the same steel, right? 204P, CV20, and M390 are actually all the same steel. Probably slight elements that were changed on it, but this is the knife that kind of gets you out of the knives that are like considered cheap knives, you know, like, not, I don't want to call them cheap, but just good quality knives, but they're not that high end. So I think that's the correct word that I wanted to say. And then, you know, you wind up staying in this category, right, where all the knives are built like this. They're all high quality, they're all high end steels, and really good cutting performance. So ZT delivers that, Spyderco delivers it, you know, a lot of other, you know, more than your fill of production companies fill that. And after a while, you begin to realize that there's not much deviation between the companies as far as what they offer you, except maybe stylistically and aesthetically. So where do you go after you get stuff like this, after you've built up a collection of knives that have this quality to them, which is great quality, right? Where do you go? Well, we're going to go to the next step, and the next step that you go to is actually the Chris Reeve Sebenza 21, or Chris Reeve knives. Now, Chris Reeve knives, I've done tons of videos on this guy, and I have given up trying to explain him as a knife maker. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to keep doing videos on him until I make my point, which probably won't ever really happen. So let's just talk about what makes Chris Reeve so iconic, okay? So let's give a little bit of history. First of all, the man came from South Africa. In 1978, he began making knives, folders, back when folders weren't really all that popular yet. Probably the slip joint was really the knife of choice at that time. And so he came over and decided that he was going to make what was called the ultimate knife. I mean, literally, he wanted to make the ultimate knife. And in the Sebenza 21, this is pretty much the knife that made his career. Now, for a lot of you guys, you may never own one of these, probably just because of one reason, would be price. So that's not why I'm actually pushing this video. The reason that I'm talking about Chris Reeve is because he's incredibly iconic in the way that he makes his knives. Whoops, I dropped the camera there. Sorry about that. Yeah, in the way that he makes his knives, and I'm just going to let the knife sit there and I'm going to talk. You kind of pretty much have to understand the philosophy behind Chris Reeve knives before you can even really consider getting into them. First of all, Chris Reeve is the only knife maker who literally puts himself out there as a maker. in a sense that he has a lifetime warranty. Okay, lifetime, meaning this knife is guaranteed for the rest of your life. If you break it, even if it's your fault, whatever the deal is, he has what's called a spot treatment. So if the knife gets all dinged up and beat up and everything, you can basically mail it off to him and he'll give it to you in complete brand new condition. I myself have done it twice on this knife already. And I'm telling you, it is a service that I have not experienced with any other production company. Now, here's the thing. Chris Reeve is undefinable. And I talked about this before. He's, I don't know, man. Yeah, Chris Reeve is just an undefinable knife maker. Nobody can really even begin to understand what this guy does or why he is the way that he is in his knife making. The guy's knife company, by the way, is made in Idaho. He lives in Boise, Idaho. That's pretty much where he lives and where his factory is. So if you get a chance, go down there and check out what he does. So I'm having difficulty explaining it again. If you think about it, I don't know if I were able to take this CT and talk to Zero Tolerance and ask them if I could get this knife. I'm going to move that out of the way. If I could just get like this knife, all, you know, if it were all dinged up and beat up, could I go to ZT and have them make it look brand new again? No. That's not going to happen. Zero Tolerance has a limited warranty on their knives. Obviously, you know, once you own it, that's it. I mean, you're not going to get any more service out of that. But Chris Reeve, again, the spot treatment is one thing that makes him stand out. Another reason why Chris Reeve is considered undefinable, because he does things his way and only his way. He doesn't go by what other people... he just doesn't go by like what other people would consider the norm in the knife world. First of all, the way he builds his knives are done only his way. He doesn't believe in ball bearings. Okay, there are no ball bearings in Chris Reeve knives. He just doesn't provide that for you. That's not in his philosophy. That's one. Two, he's more of a cross between production knives and custom knives. I mean, if you take a look at this knife, look at the inlays on this thing. It is just absolutely beautiful. And yet it's a production knife, right? So Chris Reeve's concept is just to build the greatest knife he can possibly build. And he hopes that when you own his knife that you agree with him. Man, I don't think anybody can really explain how this guy makes his knives or why he makes what he makes and the way that he does it. But if you're tired of your fill of, you know, Spyderco, Zero Tolerance, CRKT, whatever knife company that you're into, and you're looking to step up, but yet you're not quite ready to go into custom knives because prices for those knives are really sky high, and if you're not ready for that, you definitely should check out with Chris Reeve knives. He is just going to keep on doing what he's going to be doing, and you know, if you don't agree with his style of knife making, then he just looks at you and go find someone else. Because I'll tell you one thing though, people keep coming back over and over and over for Chris Reeve knives, and because of that, he falls into two categories. You either love Chris Reeve or you hate him, and there's no such thing as in the middle with Chris Reeve, just because of all the controversy, the fact that he doesn't use ball bearings, the fact that he only uses phosphor bronze washers in his knives, and even his washers are done differently than everybody else's. If I were to take apart this knife, you would see that the washers have these little holes in them, circular holes in his washers, and that's to hold the lubricant. That's another thing. The lubricant is his own lubricant. It's not anyone else's. So, you know what I mean? I guess what I'm trying to say is that Chris Reeve lives in his own world. So when you buy a Chris Reeve knife, you're literally buying into his world of knife making and nothing else. Nothing that he puts on his knife is not Chris Reeve made, even down to the lubricant that he uses on his knives. So you might want to think about that. But the result is an incredibly high quality piece that if it breaks or if it fails to satisfy you, you can go and ship it off to Chris Reeve and he will fix it, he will make it brand new, he will do whatever it takes to get you to love his product again. And that's really what this man is all about. Now, you have to understand, Chris Reeve doesn't just have this one model. He's got several models, plus some fixed blades. But that's another thing, is that when he makes his knives, because he has such a high level of quality for himself, he doesn't deviate from the last knife that he made, if there are any sort of like improvements that are being done on his knife. Very, very minimal changes are done over the years on his knife. In fact, this knife is now discontinued, and the knife is now the Sebenza 31, and the inlays are no longer two inlays. It's one whole inlay covering the front of the knife and one whole inlay covering the back of the knife. So, you know, that's about the only change. And maybe a ceramic lock bar insert. That's about it. Other than that, you don't want to mess with perfection. And Chris Reeve pretty much believes that there's no reason to change that up in any way, shape, or form. So he's not necessarily going to change along with the rest of the knife community. He's going to continue to keep doing what he's doing because he's found success that way. And because of that, there are actually knife collectors out there that only collect Chris Reeve. I know, I've seen a few of them out there. They've got a ton of Chris Reeve knives, including the very first iterations of the Sebenza 21. I mean, these guys are like Chris Reeve-aholics. So he does have a following. So you might want to keep that in mind. And it's because of that following and the fact that Chris Reeve does things the way he wants to, pretty much means that he's going to continue to do what he does. At this point in time, his son Tim is the gentleman that now runs the company, with his father in the background, still making decisions on possibly anything major that goes on in his company. He still does that, but he's no longer, he's now slowly sort of transitioning into retirement somewhat and letting his son take over the reins, which I also seem to notice with Tim Reeve, from the videos that I've seen. Every time he does Blade Show, he's kind of uncomfortable in a way, because he knows that whatever he's presenting to them is not much of a change from the last deviation of knives that they put out maybe a few years back. You know, usually it's, well, we've changed the thumb stud, or we've made our washers slightly bigger than they used to be, you know, or we've changed the lanyard, something where it's not so significant that you would even notice if you were to be a first-time Chris Reeve customer. And it's a sad thing, because we probably really won't know what Tim Reeve is going to do once his father decides to completely leave the company, or, you know, in a sad case, maybe if he's no longer with us. We don't know what's going to happen with this knife company, but for now, everything is stellar. Everything has to stay stellar. So Tim Reeve has the pressure of dealing with an entire legacy that his father has left for him, And he's going to slowly come into his own. He's going to slowly introduce things to the knife company that is going to make some sort of significant change. But I mean, you know, a perfect example is the smoothness on this knife. It's a very smooth knife, right? But even the smoothness on this, he doesn't even use the word smooth. I've heard this from a lot of people. They don't use the word smooth. They use the word hydraulic, which is true. His knives are hydraulic in nature. In other words, you don't feel, you know, the feel of the smoothness is considered hydraulic, and that's basically the only adjective that's used to explain the opening and closing of his knives. And for a lot of people, that is enough to get them hooked. What is this hydraulic, man? What are they talking about? And finally, taking apart this knife. Not a problem. This is probably one of the easiest knives you'll ever take apart. There aren't that very many screws on it. Basically, you've got the pivot, and then you've got this screw here, and then the back, the one standoff in the back, and the knife's taken apart. You can clean it and put it back together, no problem. I know because I've done it quite a few times, and I suck at taking apart knives. So with that all being said, if you are ready for a high-end piece and you want a guaranteed home run, I would definitely go with Chris Reeve. Granted, you're going to be having in your pocket probably one of the most unique folding knives ever, but what's even better, and this is a positive thing, is that you're going to have a knife that's in your pocket that simply cannot be compared to anything else. So this is Omar, the knife of the party guy, over here out again at the waterfront. It's such a nice day out, low tide. Just showing you my Sebenza 21 and wanting to talk about Chris Reeve again. And you know, again, I don't think that this video really explains Chris Reeve, but I just wanted to get my word out again for maybe the fourth or fifth time of trying to explain Chris Reeve. If you want more of an elaborate explanation on what Chris Reeve Knives is all about, you know, check out my other videos on my channel. And I think maybe one of those videos you might actually go, okay, now I see what he's talking about. Or maybe this is the video that's going to get you to understand why Chris Reeve is the way he is, why the man lives on his own planet as far as his idea of knife making. Because in order to create a knife like this, and really stand behind it, that really means something. And if you live in Boise, Idaho, you're probably familiar with this factory, and you're a knife person, you've probably gone and visited it. Let me know what it's like, because I've never been there. Anyway, this is Omar, your knife of the party guy, signing off with his Sebenza 21. And I'll see you guys all in the next video, because like I said, I'm just trying to get used to doing this medium in this form, this way of filming. I'm not really even sure that I'm doing it correctly. And I'm still not even sure of how to even end this video. There's no button on the front of my screen that tells me that the video is going to end, so I'm just going to end it. And hopefully this video will load and all of you guys will be able to be watching it, I'm hoping. So I will see you guys in the next video. Again, it's probably going to be a live one. So I'll talk to you guys later and see you soon.